Hello everyone, and the Z is parked in the center of the garage again, which means yes, we have another project for the car today. We are going to be wrapping the Z in some vivid space pearl vinyl. I'll be wrapping the roof, just trying to get an idea of what the color looks like and how easy it is to wrap a car in vinyl. So let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to wipe down the surface that we plan to wrap in vinyl. I'm just going to spray some waterless wash and wax stuff on it to try and clean it up. Might also go over it with some rubbing alcohol. Just kind of wipe it down with a cloth. You don't want any dirt or contaminants getting into your vinyl because otherwise you won't have a very clean wrap. So we'll go ahead and get the roof all cleaned up and then we will begin the wrap. And before we open up the vinyl, guys, I'm actually going to go ahead and lay down some of this stuff. This right here is knifeless tape from 3M. It's what's going to allow me to get some really clean lines on the top of the roof where the certain lines on the car are, instead of having to try and go over it with a razor blade. So I'll lay this down along some of the lines of the car. I'll probably be placing a strip right along here, along this black rubber weather seal, I'm guessing this is. I think I'm going to lay one across the top of the windshield to get a clean cut there, but there's nothing I can really do about the rear windshield. I'm probably just going to overlap it onto the window and then use a razor to go through here. That should be fairly simple. So we'll go ahead and lay some of this down to get a nice clean edge, so that way when we're ready to cut the vinyl, we can get a nice line. And with this knifeless tape, you'll see there, hopefully the camera can focus in on it, I've got the string lined up just with the edge of that black sealer, and I tried to keep it as straight as possible going along here, and then leaving myself a few inches of extra space to be able to actually grab this, to be able to peel it up. I didn't end up putting any knifeless tape on the front windshield here. I'm going to go ahead and just stick my razor into the little crevice here to be able to cut that up. Alright guys, and it is now time to go ahead and open up the wrap so you can see what color it is I've gotten for the 370Z. I have laid out some cloth here just to try and prevent the vinyl from getting dirty, because when you are wrapping this thing, the important thing you want to remember is you want to make sure you don't get any dirt actually underneath the vinyl here, otherwise you won't have a smooth finish. You'll see some of that dirt kind of forming through the vinyl. You also don't want to scratch the other side of the vinyl, just because you want it to look nice, right? So when I'm unraveling this, I'm actually going to lay it down upside down. That way we're not getting any contaminants underneath the vinyl where we're going to be wrapping. And I need to lay it out anyways because I do need to cut this up to try and match the dimensions of the roof. I don't want to have too much excess because I might be using some of this vinyl to wrap other parts of the car while it's here. So anyways, let's go ahead and unbox the vinyl.
What we do here is go back.
Alright, so I've got the vinyl finally rolled out. It was under a whole lot of tension during shipping because they pack these things pretty tight inside the shipping tubes, so it's wanting to roll back right now. I think what I'm going to do is apply a little bit of heat to it to try and reflow it. That way maybe it will lay a little bit flatter. Won't apply too much heat because obviously it still has the protective plastic wrapping on it, and I don't really want to damage that or anything else. So we'll go ahead and apply just a little bit of heat. Hopefully it'll flatten out and I'll let it sit here for a little bit while I take some measurements of the roof to see if we need to cut this vinyl up in. And along with the vinyl and knifeless tape, I also ordered this little kit here to wrap cars with. I think this is about 20 bucks on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below. It contains some gloves here to help protect the vinyl from scratches or oils or anything on your fingers. We've got this knife here to be able to cut the vinyl up with. Of course, you've got your squeegees. You're going to need something like this when you're wrapping the car, guys. If you don't want to buy something specific for wrapping cars, you can always use like a credit card and then just wrap it in some cloth. But we'll need to use those to be able to get all the bubbles out. Don't know what that is. And we've got some measuring tape. We've got a blade here with some plastic blades that will allow us to kind of dig the vinyl into some of those smaller crevices. Don't know what that is either. Oh, I think that's it looks like a blade of some sort. It says art knife on the top. I believe that's just for cutting up the vinyl. We've got a carrying case here for everything, and then a couple more squeegees in here. So finished taking the measurements, and it looks like we're pretty narrow on our margins as far as width. It's about 35 inches across here, and the vinyl is 36 inches, so it's cutting it pretty close, but it should be enough. I also only need about 50 inches of vinyl lengthwise, so we have a bit of excess there, so we'll go ahead and cut up the vinyl a little bit, and then we should be able to throw it on top of the car. Alright, so the vinyl is unfortunately wanting to still roll up, so the heat trick looks like it didn't work. So I've kind of invented a method here I'm going to use to try and hold this down. Normally, this next step is much easier if you have like somebody to help you, but I usually try and do everything on my own. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to go ahead and place the vinyl and get it lined up on the roof. I'm going to use a couple of pieces of tape here to hold one side of the roof down while I'm working the other side. I'm only going to work about half of it at a time. And hopefully, once we get the little back cover here, this kind of paper piece off, the vinyl should be able to lay out a little bit easier because most of the tension's inside of that plastic cover. So we'll go ahead and lay the vinyl on top, and then what I'm going to do is fold these over to be able to hold this half of the roof down. Alright, so the vinyl is now placed on top of the roof. We really have almost no room for error here. This piece of vinyl was just wide enough to be able to get over the entire roof. So the next step now is I'm going to go ahead and peel off this protective clear filament that Vivid puts on all of their vinyls. And then we'll go ahead and lift this up and see if there's any dirt under here that we need to clean out that we acquired while we were moving this piece of vinyl over, because again, we don't want to get any dirt trapped underneath the roof. So let's go ahead and do that now. And with that protective filament removed from the top here, you can start to see the true color of this vinyl coming through. You of course got some of that blue pearl that you guys can probably see right there. If you've got any of these creases starting to form in the vinyl, don't worry about it. Those will come out as you start to refloat with the heat gun. Now we're going to go ahead and peel up the paper backing on this so that way we can clean out underneath it and start to lay the vinyl down. Alright guys, what you saw me doing there was I was trying to use some of the masking tape to be able to hold down the paper backings. That way I could pull that adhesive all the way back to the tape. It was kind of tricky, but I finally got it done by myself. Again, this is a whole lot easier if you have somebody else helping you out, but it is doable on your own as well. Now, I won't want to leave it laying like that for too long, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that back over now. We're going to kind of pull it tight, but lay it loosely over the top of the roof, and then we're going to get our squeegee, and we're going to start slowly trying to pull all of the creases out. You always want to start from the center and work your way out. You never want to start using the squeegee on the end of the vinyl because then it becomes really difficult to get bubbles out. So always start from the center. Let's go ahead and start applying this vinyl. So wrapping this on my own ended up proving a little more difficult than I was anticipating. It is really important to try and get the vinyl to lay down as flat as possible initially so you can minimize the amount of creases that you end up having to work out here. But whenever you get these creases starting to form like you see here, you can pull the vinyl up a little bit to try and expose those, and then you can continue to try and use your squeegee to flatten this out a little bit. You want to do this as much as possible without the heat gun, but eventually you will need to put in some heat to try and get the vinyl to stretch so that you can get these creases out of the way. Just be patient with it. It took me probably 3 or 4 hours to get this entire roof wrapped, but the results ended up looking really nice. Alright, so the driver's side of the roof is just about wrapped up now. I wasn't able to get everything completely perfect. There are just a couple of small little bubbles hiding around in there, really tiny microscopic ones that could even just be dust hiding underneath the vinyl. But for the most part, it is just about good. You have to use quite a lot of heat to be able to get most of the creases out. You may end up needing to use quite a lot of heat in the groove here as well. You do want to try and give the vinyl some slack to try and push it in there without putting too much strain on it. But I did have to apply quite a lot of heat to move the creases far enough to the outside to where hopefully most of that won't be there when we pull up the knifeless edge tape. Speaking of which, we're going to go ahead and pull this up now to be able to take off this excess on this side, and then we will go ahead and do the passenger side. And to get this knifeless edge tape going, you usually want to make a small incision in the vinyl. It's going to be difficult to pick that up on camera, but you want to make a small incision there just to kind of give the knifeless edge tape a place to start, and then you'll want to start pulling it up fairly quickly but smoothly. You don't want to stop, otherwise you might end up getting some imperfections in the cut. So let's go ahead and pull this up.
See you on the other side. Stay alive. Stay alive. I got to keep it together. Keep it together. Keep it together. Keep it together.
Install process, but for the most part you just need to now tuck the edges of the vinyl at the front and the rear of the roof. What you'll end up doing for this is you'll just use a whole lot of heat to try and get the vinyl to sort of melt into place, and then you can use like a credit card or something else like a plastic razor to tuck the edges into place. For the most part, I am happy with the quality of the job that I managed to do. It has, for the most part, laid perfectly flat. There are a couple of spots here that have bubbled up slightly due to specks of dirt that were caught underneath the vinyl that I wasn't able to get out. And there are some micro scratches in the vinyl from the squeegee that I was using to try and flatten it out. It did end up putting some small minor scratches in the car that aren't really noticeable unless you're under artificial light. I love the color of this vinyl as well. The video doesn't do this vinyl justice, guys. It has a really beautiful blue pearl to it. I was hoping to capture this in the daylight, but unfortunately it has been nothing but overcast the past couple of days here. I would consider wrapping my car completely in this vinyl. It's not my first option. Again, I've told you guys I don't like the look of vinyl compared to regular paint. I don't like the feel of it. And as I said, it's not perfect. There are some imperfections in it, and I am trying to keep this car looking as clean as possible. So I am still looking to get the car completely painted, but I know now that wrapping the car would possibly be an option if I couldn't get the price point that I wanted to get the car repainted. But that is it for this video, guys. If you found it helpful, give it the thumbs up. You can also subscribe to my channel for more how-to videos, as well as keep up with this build, and I will see you guys in the next video. Later.